2025 was one of the most eventful years of my life. I moved away from home to start my master's degree in astrophysics, I went to my first ever midnight release for a console for the Switch 2, and we finally had a decent year of COD Zombies content. Uploads on the channel were admittedly light, but I'm hoping to rectify that a bit this year. I worked like a dog to finish the Luigi's Mansion video before Christmas, and I've got 2 half-complete scripts already with plans to finish more tier lists in the coming weeks. In terms of the games I played, there was a healthy mixture of games from the backlog, games that I had been intending to return to and finish for a couple of years, as well as some brand new releases that I didn't even know about prior to the start of 2025. But of course, let's begin with the honorable mentions. It wouldn't be a best of the year video for me without mentioning Destiny 2, because wow, what a tumultuous year it has been for this game. We started the year with episode Heresy, which was decently fun even though I kinda hated the nether activity. The new Dungeon Sunder Doctrine ranks somewhere in the middle for me, though I do like the truth and lie mechanics referencing the game's lore. I then barely played Rite of the Nine in June, which took us to the Edge of Fate. Unlike most people, I actually really liked the Edge of Fate, and thought the campaign was better than Renegades. However, the post-campaign was basically non-existent beyond hunting for collectibles and rerunning the campaign missions on higher difficulties, which required level grinding and interaction with the new portal system. I did not enjoy the portal on launch, but nowadays I tolerate it since I don't have to engage with it all the time. I have yet to run the Desert Perpetual raid, though I think it looks really cool and I've begun to watch guides in preparation for doing it one day. I sort of stopped playing Destiny between August to November as I was in the process of moving out and starting up school again. I also started playing other games that had come out, some of which will appear later in this video, but when Renegades released, I was back to playing Destiny every few days, and now I hop on multiple times a week to continue unlocking Triumph Seals and earning new weapons that I missed out on until now. The new dungeon Equilibrium was also a banger, and I'm looking forward to trying it on solo eventually. I believe this game still has a lot of potential to be great, but the next expansion releasing in the summer needs to be excellent to continue restoring confidence in the community. In the realm of Call of Duty Zombies, there were the final 3 maps for Black Ops 6 and the first 2 maps of Black Ops 7. 2025 started with one of my least favorite modern zombies maps, The Tomb. To this day I consider it to be a D tier map with very little going for it. I completed the Easter egg solo over the summer, which was one of the more positive experiences I had with it, but the special enemy spam and reused wonder weapons for a main DLC map did not help much. Plus the quest for building and upgrading the ice staff is annoying and tedious, so overall I was not feeling this map on launch and I still don't really like it. Then Shattered Veil restored some of my faith in BO6 zombies, with a map that feels the closest to a BO3 map that we've had in years. But once again, reused wonder weapons were disappointing. Thankfully the Easter egg and boss fight were fun, but I still think the Z-Rex is a bit overtuned to this day. The BO6 season then concluded with Reckoning, which was an okay map. I liked the new Uberklaus enemy and some of the Easter egg steps, but the Gorgofex wonder weapon felt out of place and underwhelming. It was cool to see 2 different boss fights at the end of the main quest, but to this day I have never attempted the Richthofen fight after seeing how bullshit it is. I was also in the process of moving out during the month of August, so spending hours on a single optional boss fight didn't feel like the best use of my time. One day I would like to give this another try, but I don't see that being soon. Black Ops 7 then launched with Ashes of the Damned, which has been one of the better maps of the modern Zombies era. I liked that the Easter egg was actually challenging to do and took multiple attempts to master, and it required good coordination with other players to complete some steps. The Necroflute Gauntlet is one of my favorite new wonder weapons of all time, with a sick design and really unique abilities like the overhealing and infinite ammo with proper usage. Then the Vaetherion boss fight came out and kicked everyone's asses, which was refreshing to see. Unfortunately I didn't have the chance to try this fight before it was nerfed, but I guess that's what Cursed Mode is for now. It took 4 attempts for me to beat this fight with my 3-player squad, and I cheered like crazy when we finally got it. I'm not sure how this map will hold up over time, but for now I think it was a pretty solid start to the new year of zombies. The most recent map to release is Astra Malorum, and I still feel pretty positively about it. My main criticisms come from the ridiculousness of the boss fight's final phase, the permanent tracking Oscar has after round 50, and how underpowered the LGM-1 is. This wonder weapon is so cool, but it unfortunately falls off really hard in the 30s when it feels like it shouldn't. That buff alone would make this map much better to me, but otherwise it's still a pretty solid experience, with one of my favorite skyboxes in all of gaming. As long as Treyarch doesn't fumble the next few maps for Black Ops 7, we're in good shape for a strong year of Zombies content. Just please don't release something like The Tomb again, or I will be heartbroken. When the Switch 2 was announced, several games were shown to be receiving updates and Switch 2 upgrades. One of these upgrades was for Kirby and the Forgotten Land, along with the new Starcrossed Road DLC that was released in August. I was already quite positive on the base game, so this was an instant buy for me. While I think it was a little overpriced for the amount of content actually in it, Starcrossed Road was still a fantastic experience. Despite just being more Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it was some of the most fun I had with the game, and looked gorgeous with its updated graphics and performance. If you don't want spoilers, then look away for this section, because the most recent game I finished in 2025 was the Lies of P Overture DLC, and man, what a banger. All of the new areas and bosses were excellent, and the final boss was one of the craziest gaming experiences I've had in recent years. I played the entire expansion with the same loadout I used in the base game, being the default greatsword you select at the start of a new playthrough, and only using the Fulminous Legion arm. This basic setup forced me to really learn how to parry the attacks of each boss, and I found it to be immensely satisfying to play in this way. This DLC has solidified Lies of P as the best Souls-like game not created by From Software, and I think it even surpasses those games in some areas. I'm remaining vague to avoid spoilers since this is still relatively new, but Overture is a must-play for any Lies of P fan. If it was longer and had more content, I would have considered putting it in the top 10 list, but it didn't feel quite right, unlike the 40 hours that I spent with Shadow of the Erdtree in 2024. A few more honorable mentions that I wanted to quickly name include Gears of War 2, 3, and 4, Blasphemous, Peak, and Grease. Now let's start my top 10 list for my favorite games I played in 2025, both old and new. I'm a newer fan to the Skate series, and admittedly I'm more interested in the absurd fun than the actual skateboarding mechanics. I just want to do tricks that look cool enough, only for me to wipe out in the most brutal ways possible. With the newest entry in this series, the developers definitely lean more into this than ever before. Some people may have thought it tainted the original identity of the series, but for me this is my favorite part of the game. Maybe I'm just easily pleased, but wiping out in ways that would most certainly kill someone never ceases to make my stomach hurt from laughing. I was looking forward to this game for some time after my friend Adam got me into Skate 3 during the pandemic, and this new game did not disappoint. After many years of waiting, Nintendo decided to finally lock in and release a new Mario Kart game for their brand new console as a launch title. While I like a lot of what Mario Kart World does, it's still lacking in too many areas to be the instant classic that it really should have been. Let's get my negatives out of the way first. The open world is boring and it has no good reason to explore it. I still do not like any of the transition races, and I think the game is significantly worse because of them. The character selection UI is still embarrassing. I don't get much enjoyment out of Knockout Tour, and the worst part is that this game costs $110 in Canada before tax. I got it with the Switch 2 bundle, so the game only ended up costing me about $70. But man, for that price, I would expect this game to have at least 2 or 3 more cups in Grand Prix. It really seems like Nintendo doesn't know what to do with Mario Kart World, but maybe they will announce new content for it in the upcoming February Direct that hopefully happens, and some of the content better be free or I'll crash out. Despite all of this crap, it's still a really fun Mario Kart game to play. The character roster is arguably the best in the series, the game looks gorgeous and runs flawlessly, the driving took some getting used to but now I love it, most of the new tracks are pretty great, and having outfit options for many of the main characters is a nice addition. I also appreciate the rail grinding and wall riding mechanics, which makes this game feel distinct from its predecessor in interesting and meaningful ways. My go-to kart combo was the B-Dasher with a light character like Shaggy or Toad, but I've had a lot of fun trying out other options. I really want more reasons to play Mario Kart World, because there is a great game hiding beneath the baffling design choices and lacking content for its price. It all just depends on what Nintendo wants to do with this game moving forwards. If there's cool new free content, then I'd be more than happy to dump more hours into Mario Kart World. But as of now, it's my least played Switch 2 game of the year. One of the heavy hitters that has been brewing on my gaming backlog is God of War 2018. It was a game that I had been planning to play for several years, but never found the right time to start it. Fast forward to January 2025 when my university friends invited me to a Bear McCreary concert in May, which of course I had to say yes to. This began my journey through the God of War series, but to get the most out of this modern title, I knew I wanted to play the original trilogy first. So not only did I play God of War 2018 last year, I also played God of War 1, 2, and 3. I did enjoy that trilogy quite a bit, especially the third game. However, 2018 is the game that made it onto this list. The big thing that everyone praises this game for is its story, and I would have to agree for the most part. When Atreus isn't being a whiny bitch, this game excels at getting you invested in these characters and wanting to see them succeed. I appreciated how this was more of a personal story for Kratos, rather than world-ending stakes like God of War Ragnarok appears to be, but I haven't played it yet. After the original trilogy and seeing Kratos finally understand the atrocities he has committed, this feels like a natural place to continue the series. Another highlight of this game is the combat, which for the most part is very solid, apart from some weirdly telegraphed moves from some enemies. As a big fan of Souls games, I really enjoyed hunting down all of the Valkyries and eventually reaching the queen herself, Sigrun. The background gameplay here is my winning attempt against her, because I was very proud of it. I also got the Platinum Trophy for God of War 2018, which means I really liked the game. The biggest complaint I have is that exploration and movement are really clunky. The fact that Kratos cannot walk or mantle up the smallest of ledges just because the game doesn't want you going that way was a constant pain in the ass. The game trying to feel cinematic got on my nerves at times, and occasionally I would have preferred a normal fade to black loading screen rather than having to walk forwards like with fast travel, or waiting around while Kratos stands still before the game decides I'm allowed to play again. However, the best parts of this game that really elevated it for me and made me want to see it all the way through were the world and setting. This interpretation of Midgard and a handful of the other realms felt so surreal and massive in ways that very few games can achieve. This is one of those games where I wish I could explore out of bounds and see the rest of the world because it was just so damn majestic. I'm glad I was finally able to experience this game and to become a fan of the God of War series. I'm really looking forward to playing Ragnarok sometime this year. Another year, another Pokemon game. This time we got Pokemon Legends ZA, which falls into the category of being all over the place for me in terms of quality. The battles are the real highlight for this game, and it's by far the most engaging aspect about it. I also really liked a lot of the new characters, and felt like Game Freak had some of their strongest character designs on display here. The music for this game was also immaculate, and it makes me wish the battles lasted longer so I could appreciate them more in-game. Then of course we were showered in new Mega Evolutions that were almost all great apart from a few that I didn't like. I also built one of my favorite Pokemon teams ever, with Meganium, Heracross, Slowbro, Alpha Crocodile since he's the only one that doesn't have a Mega, Dragalge, and Chandelure. All that said, this game still falls short in a lot of areas to be one of my favorite Pokemon adventures. While I liked the characters and battles, the in-between stuff to reach those moments felt like a chore. I cannot believe how many rogue Mega Evolutions you're forced to fight. I was sick of them by the third set, but they just kept showing up. I really wish these were optional and I could do them whenever I felt like it, rather than halting the story for it. The ZA Royale outstayed its welcome for me, and I didn't even bother doing the post-game quest for it. The singular location of Lumio City also hurt this game a lot for me, and I got tired of seeing the same city, streets, and blocks by the end of my playthrough. I did enjoy some moments of the story, but the final sequence was actually one of my least favorite parts. I won't talk about spoilers here, but man, it was very underwhelming. I just wish the player got to do more, rather than watching other characters do all the cool stuff. Overall, I did like a lot about Pokemon Legends ZA, but it most definitely is not perfect. I also did not buy the DLC, because it would cost me $45 in Canada, and I'd rather use that money on things that don't look repetitive and boring. Every game released by Hazelight surprises me in ways I could have never expected, and that holds true with Split Fiction. Once again, this studio finds ways to pack so many interesting and fun ideas into what isn't a super long game. Alternating between sci-fi and fantasy levels did a lot for variety, especially with the side stories sprinkled throughout that completely changed the vibes or gameplay in a particular level. Some of the most memorable sections of the game for me were the motorcycle chase at the end of the first sci-fi chapter, the Hot Dog and Magic Village side stories, riding dragons, as well as the sci-fi section centered around Mio, and ending with that surprisingly sinister boss fight that I won't spoil. Then the final 2 hours of the game were just peak co-op gaming. I never knew you could do so much with pinball, but leave it to Hazelight to nail that shit. Then the true final section was legitimately perfect. I have no complaints or notes. I had a feeling the game was going to do something like that at some point, and man, they executed it better than I could have ever imagined. The only major flaw with this game is that some levels drag on for far too long. It's never bad or boring, but the pacing was a major sticking point for myself and the friend I played this with. This reason alone is why I still think It Takes Two is the better game, but the fact that they still got this close and the game's director claims that they have more ideas in the tank, it leaves me feeling very hopeful about this company's future. Another series that has been sitting in my backlog for way too long is Metroid. I began the 2D series a few years ago with my Metroid Zero Mission review, and at long last I finally got around to playing Metroid Prime on Switch. I think I've started Prime about 3 or 4 times in my life, but never made it past the Chozo Ruins for whatever reason. However, this year I finally committed to a full playthrough, and it was legendary. I understand completely why everyone is so excited for Prime 4, because this shit is legit. I had so much fun just exploring this world and taking in the sights and sounds. I appreciate that each new ability felt impactful and opened up so much more of the world every time. It made finding every upgrade a big moment in the playthrough. I still fondly remember the moments I found the grapple beam and gravity suit. I'm going to pass those memories down to my children. I also 100%ed the game, which was fun for the most part, but having to watch guides for the last few missile expansions was not the most thrilling gameplay experience. I did think the path of progression was really obtuse at times, and I don't know how I would have beaten this game if it didn't give you map hints every so often. This is yet another series I'm happy I finally got into over the past few years, and I'm really looking forward to playing Metroid Prime 2 Echoes sometime in 2026. After dumping 160 hours into Assassin's Creed Valhalla last year, I wasn't sure I had more Assassin's Creed left in me. But the more and more I saw about Shadows, the more interested and excited I was to play the game. As a fan of the modern AC games, I had a pretty good feeling about this game. It was the only game I pre-ordered last year, though that was primarily due to receiving the DLC for free as a bonus. Then the game came out, and I was hooked. Usually with longer games like these, I tend to take extended breaks from the game before coming back to it later, but Shadows was like the gift that kept on giving. I love so much about this game, including the beautiful recreation of Japan, the dual protagonists with Yasuke and Naoe, the combat and skill tree overhauls, the new stealth mechanics, the season system, the outfits, and most of the story. I think the game drags a bit during Act 2 when the non-linearity makes each individual plotline feel less important, but Act 3 and having the Templars be introduced so late was a nice boost of motivation to finish the game. I know the 2 playable characters were one of the most controversial aspects of this game before release, but my confession is that it was my favorite part of the game. Naoe and Yasuke are so different in their abilities and interactions with the world that I frequently swapped between them during my playthrough. I loved using the Kusarigami as Naoe's main weapon, whereas with with Yasuke, I played the main story with a long katana, before switching to the Kanabo for post-game and DLC content. After all of my time spent with Assassin's Creed Shadows and the Claws of Awaji expansion, my playthrough sits close to 100 hours, and that personally feels like time that was very well spent. I stuck with this game despite the constant bad press it received, and I have no regrets whatsoever. Back during 2021, I dumped 30 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and made it all the way to Prison Island before heading to Valak Mountain. I loved the time I spent with the game, but then I put it down for no reason. For the rest of that year and over the next 3 years, my only time spent on the game were a handful of instances where I tried picking up the game again but couldn't remember how the combat worked or what was happening in the story. This all ended in January 2025, where I finally decided enough was enough and sat myself down for an evening to rewatch cutscenes and reteach myself the combat system. After that, I could not put the game down for the next 2 weeks. I recall one weekend where I did literally nothing but play Xenoblade Chronicles. I must have played it for 8 hours straight one day, and I just wanted to keep on playing it. I was so invested in the story and the characters that I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. The combat has so much depth with all of the team building options and synergy between each party member. I do feel like the game kinda forces you to play as Shulk for most of the time, unless you want to lose some fights due to the AI not cooperating. Shulk was too important to the gameplay to not be on your team for a majority of the time, and too many fights in the game are much more difficult without using Minato arts. If I can find the time to replay this game, then I would like to try other party configurations that don't use Shulk. However, for my first time, I primarily used Shulk, Charlotte, and Dunban. There was the occasional time where I needed to switch my party around, such as with that piece of shit bitch Lorothea, but otherwise I used that trio for the back half of the game. This game was so good that I now own every other Xenoblade game on my Switch, including Torna for the second game, and I fully intend to play all of them within the next few years. I'm so happy I finally got into this series, because it definitely deserves the hype. I did not expect to like Xenoblade Chronicles as much as I did, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I didn't love Super Mario Odyssey as much as I wanted to. The moveset and worlds were fantastic, but the strong focus on quantity over quality for Power Moons really killed my excitement for that game. I thought that Odyssey just wasn't as good as previous 3D Mario games, and I was disappointed that they changed the formula into what I thought to be a far inferior version. So when I saw that Nintendo was making a new 3D Donkey Kong game that borrowed heavily from Odyssey, I was skeptical. Then more trailers kept releasing and the game started to look much more interesting and appealing. I ended up buying the game about a month after launch and didn't play it until September once I moved away from home into my new apartment. Even as I booted up the game for the first time, I was concerned that I wouldn't like it and that I would have wasted $100 in a game I didn't enjoy. But thankfully, once I got to the Lagoon layer, I literally could not stop playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. I love the level variety, I love the characters, I love the Bonanza transformations, the entire soundtrack is god tier, I love the movement, excluding Turf Surf because I kept accidentally activating it when I didn't want to. I love the atmosphere and the vibes of this game, and I especially loved the final part of this game. One night when I knew I was getting really close to the end of the game, I decided to stay up until I rolled credits. But then more and more things kept happening, and by the time I was on the final boss, it must have been about 2:30 in the morning. But I pushed on, because for this brief period I was playing a true 10 out of 10 masterpiece of a game, and I didn't want it to end. I've always said in my personal life that there is no such thing as a perfect game, but man, Donkey Kong Bonanza made a very strong argument. I didn't manage to finish the game that night because I was actively nerfing myself to make the final boss more difficult, and I went to bed at 3:40 that night just wanting to sleep quickly so I could wake up and keep attempting the boss. I was committed to beating it with only 8 hearts and no apple juice because I'm really stubborn, so I had a difficult time with it. Eventually I did manage to roll credits the following morning after about 30 to 40 more minutes of attempts, and it was one of my all-time best gaming memories, period. It might be because this was the first game I played and completed while living by myself for the first time ever, but not a week goes by that I don't think about Donkey Kong Bonanza. This game is so special to me, and ranks as one of my favorite games of all time, and yet there's still one more game above it on this list. I spent a long time debating between my top 2 games because they were both such incredible experiences that I'll think about for a long time. Ultimately, the deciding factor was which game had a stronger cultural impact on gaming. That criteria made it really easy for me to choose Clair Obscur Expedition 33 as my favorite game of 2025. This game hits in a way few other games could ever dream of. Expedition 33 is a generational game, something that comes once in a blue moon and goes above and beyond in every way. The gameplay and combat are so exciting and well thought out. The worlds and levels are genuine masterpieces in visual design. The characters are all likable and make you wish you could spend more time with them. And this game was a constant barrage of hype moments and crazy plot developments that always felt justified and earned. I felt the entire spectrum of emotions, from overwhelming excitement to genuine sadness and grief. Very few games are able to make me tear up a bit, and Expedition 33 did that without even trying. Another reason why this game stuck with me so much is that I actually played it with one of my best friends from university. I proposed trying it out on a whim, and we took turns playing through the game over the course of a few months. We alternated who fought boss fights, swapped in between phase transitions, and we were both having so much fun with the game that we never had to argue who was playing it at any given time. Being able to watch this world unfold in front of our eyes was just as fun with or without a controller in our hands. I brought my Xbox over to his place nearly once a week to play for a few hours, and combined with me moving away from home at the start of September, meant that our time with the game was a bit limited. This unfortunately meant that we didn't have enough time to do everything in the world, which I very much want to do once I have the time to do another full playthrough. I have never had the urge to replay a game as much as with Expedition 33, except for my actual favorite game of all time, but man, I think about E33 almost every day. Even learning about the development of this game has given me a new appreciation for the entire package, and all of this was only for $70 in Canada, and they shadow dropped free DLC for everyone in December. I do have two minor complaints about this game because no game will ever be perfect from start to end for me, but E33 is very damn close. These are that a lot of the side content is backloaded in Act 3, which makes it very easy to overlevel for the final area if you aren't aware of that, and that many of the item pickups in the world become uninteresting by the end of Act 1. Besides these minimal criticisms, I have nothing but praise to give this game. Not every game I love is something I can easily recommend to most people. I play Call of Duty Zombies and Destiny for God's sakes, but Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a monumental achievement for gaming that I hope is experienced by as many people as possible, and that's why it's my favorite game of 2025, finding its way nicely as one of my top games of all time. Thank you for watching.